Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. Welcome back from a long weekend, guys. Another decent day in the market. We'll discuss all that. Those who are new to my channel, this is my daily trade recaps and teachings from what I share in my community, what we talk in our community trading floor, all the trades, all the ideas, the execution, the winners, losers, and I talk about how the market analysis, what's market doing, and then we discuss what we have learned today. So we will all do that in this recap. Before I start, just to let anybody who's new here, let them know every day 1 hour before the market open, I'm up and I am going through all the news plays, pre-market movers, upgrades, downgrades. I'm making a comprehensive list of a watch list that we can trade today. So for example, this was today's watch list. We split it into news plays, market plays, upgrades, downgrades, and any other kind of setup. Like day 2 setup today was JPM, Delta Airlines, and among others, right? And news plays, we had Morgan Stanley, GS, Boeing, Tesla, Uber, among others, and of course our market plays. And then we had our upgrades, which we will talk about AMD, which was our main play. We don't and we can't play everything. Yes, whatever trader likes to play, he finds a setup, he plays that. I share my levels for a lot of market plays, and also for news plays I share my bias and certain levels that a trader can use to trade those, right? For specifically talking today, my main trades today was basically AMD and NVDA and Boeing. And of course somebody traded MS, somebody traded some other ticker, somebody traded Delta Airlines, somebody was short Netflix. So it depends what we want to trade, but what we do every day is a repeatable setup. We play our repeatable setups day in, day out. Nothing new. Basically we are trying to repeat what is working, and just like a job. So that's what we do, and that's what I show every day. These were the levels for today. I share my levels every day. You can take a look at these levels and pause the screen and see how they panned out. You can specifically look at some of the names like Boeing, when support pivot breaks, what happened, Netflix, other names like Microsoft. So you can just review and see how those plays worked out. On a choppy day, the levels don't really give us much, but they just give us a direction where we can really push over a pivot. But on a trend day, these levels really give us a lot of good trades. So that was, guys, introduction. And now let's start. What you see here, right here, is our trading platform. Where we have scanners, we have news bots and all that, and this is where I share my guidance all day. And bottom here is a trading floor, so where all our traders are sharing their trades every day. So anyways, I'm going to go through each trade that I did or any idea I shared with the community and see how that panned out. As you see, I give some ideas before the market open, like I gave idea on GS, MS, DocuSign, Boeing, W, Delta Airlines, and then we go from there. And we also set some price alerts on any pivot breaks, resistance breaks, support breaks, so people can get that. All right, let's start with our first play. So let's start with the biggest winner of the day, the best play for us today, and that play being AMD. Before I start on AMD, let's see what were the levels that I gave on AMD. Let's see what were the pivot levels. So the pivot levels on AMD was 150.25 and 151. They were two pivot levels to the upside that I gave on the AMD in the pre-market. Now what was happening with AMD? If you see here up top in the upgrades, AMD was my top watch list, right? The one I shared with the community. Reason being, we had a double upgrade on AMD from bunch of analysts. Not only that, AMD was already gapping up in the pre-market. There was this daily breakout, right? Daily breakout. So 10 minutes bullish, 10-minute bullish, 1 hour bullish, daily bullish, right? So everything was bullish. This was a plus breakout setup. That's why I said bullish buys today, because the pivots were breaking out right at open, right? So that's why I said let's scalp the amateur move first. Those who do not know what is an amateur move, trend move, that's watch my previous videos. I teach a lot about amateur move is the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes move, and then we have our trend moves, and I also tweet about that a lot. And excuse me guys, my sound might not sound a little rough. I don't know, my throat is acting up, so that's why, sorry about that. But anyways, so then we see if the amateur move becomes a trend move or not, and that's what started to happen in AMD. It was holding, so I said scalp amateur move, and then after 6 minutes I said hold, because I could see the strength coming, right? And then there was a big push on AMD, and then I said you can always take some off in case the amateur move fails, right? But the amateur move did not fail, it held up. So then you hold rest of your position, and then you can scale in your winner, because if you add it right at open in 151s and you took some more 153 and you see it holding up the strength, you add more, you average in. If you are in 152.5 calls, 150 calls, whatever you are, if you are in the shares, you add into this position. If you see not a single time I said get out completely, right? Because I know there's a strength. And then I kept saying, you know, AMD and NVDA will talk about separately as well. It also broke the pivots. I kept saying that AMD is has a relative strength. I will actually cover the NVIDIA as well in the same time, but anyways, because it was the same sector. Relative strength. The reason I said relative strength, because the whole market, while SPY was kind of choppy, which we will discuss in a little bit later, but AMD and NVIDIA were strong. So that tells me there was a relative strength. And it was dipping into first, we'll talk about the market, but the point I was saying was if the market pushes, then AMD and NVIDIA are going to push much, much more, right? My initial target I gave everybody on AMD was 155, and then, you know, my next target was 158.70, and then my next target was, you know, 160. So basically at end of the day, we met all our targets, and when it breaks this 512, that's when, you know, I said it's breaking 512 and you can exit it, right? So that's when we exited the AMD trade, right? But if you see from my morning to end of the day guidance, you know, we never broke the trend. Of course, the best ads were in the open, but if you missed those ads, you can add 1/4, 1/5, you know, after 10 a.m. What do I teach about 10 a.m. rule? 10 a.m. setup, which I will discuss in some of my midday webinars. But the point is you can add 1/4, 1/5 size when you see so much strength. You know, if I go to 3-minute chart, I can use that to see some pullbacks. This was a decent pullback held on 3-minute chart. Look at the 3-minute consolidation. You can always add on the 3-minute pullbacks if you want. I personally don't, because I know it's kind of became automated for me how to trade these setups, but you can always look at 3-minute charts to add it after if you miss the morning opening move. But there was just so much strength, right? If you add 1/4 of your size, even if it dips, you understand your risk is low. You don't have to add the full size all the time. And there was a reason I was focusing on AMD today. You know, I explained those reasons to you. And if you miss that trade, that's fine. You know, if you don't even want to trade that, you go to some other trade, right? And you trade something else. So anyways, that was NVIDIA. AMD, crazy win today. It traded almost 200% ATR. It's still gapping up. You know, I personally didn't swing it. I was waiting for 34.50 bounce. I never really got complete that, but you can see where it bounced from was this line. It's okay. We will trade it again tomorrow. And AMD was a big winner. Time-stamped guidance. If you held my guidance or you took my pre-market levels, you did good there. Big winner for community. All right, guys, let's look at NVIDIA quickly. So what did we do in NVIDIA? If you want to go back, we can look at our levels on NVIDIA. What was our levels? So the level on NVIDIA, the pivot I gave everyone was 551.30 and 553.46. All right. So let's see, because when these pivots work, the winners are big. You hold your plays, and when the pivots don't work, you take the stops right away. Let's see. So you see AMD was strong and semiconductors are strong. Every day I share with everyone my semiconductor list. I see everything mostly strong there. You see AMD, RMBS, NVIDIA, Micron, AVGO, they were all strong, right? So talking about NVIDIA, because I was busy in AMD, I also said you can scalp NVIDIA. It's over the pivots. It breaks this the first pivot, then it's flagging at 10 a.m. That's your another 10 a.m. entry on your flag setup, and trade with AMD, same setup. And I kept guiding that, right? I kept guiding same thing on AMD and NVIDIA, that keep rolling your profits. Same for NVIDIA, use your profits to roll. So first entry on the pivot, second entry on the 10 a.m. flag breakout. This range is your risk, and my target was that 560 was my first target, good to lock. And then I said hold a little bit more, right? At 1044 I was telling everybody to hold a little bit more because it was not 100% ATR, and it ended up going all the way to 568, right? I did share also it was a swing chart that I've been sharing from 500, and I think there's still some room if market stays strong. We'll see. But anyways, another big winner on NVIDIA. You can see the guidance here. AMD and NVIDIA was main focus in the morning. If you couldn't win on this setup all day, if you hesitated, then you need to practice. There's some reason you are hesitating, because I always say the confidence will come to you from you. It was not come from somebody else who is trying, alerting you or telling you. You need to learn. Those traders who know my teachings, who have watched my webinars, they have super confidence. They are already there before me, and what I am telling them, it just makes their conviction stronger, because they know, okay, Rip is guiding the same what we are looking at. So anyways, that was NVIDIA, guys. And important to note, the 1 hour chart was also, this was the pivot breakout on 1 hour chart on NVIDIA, right? So that was the 1 hour setup, and of course there was a daily setup. AMD was the sympathy. So that was AMD and NVIDIA. So I'm going to quickly talk about SPY and QQQ, because SPY and QQQ were not really what I call a trend day. It was a choppy day, right? So what was the setup? Market gaps down. That's what I said. Market gaps down. Here, okay, let's remove all the drawings. Let's look at it, right? So market gaps down, pulls back to pre-market lows, traps the short, bounces, breaks the pivot I gave everybody. This was the long idea. The pivot break scalp I gave everybody, and then pushes for the gap fill. A good trade. And then you will see the gap fill, you see the wicks, and then the waller comes in, and then boom, and then it comes back to pre-market lows. And again it bounces from pre-market lows. And this time it rejects from 3450, lower high on 1 hour chart if you make it 1 hour. And then it breaks the pre-market lows, a little bit fade, good for scalps, and reclaims it right back. So you should not be short, because this is the choppy action which is happening. So it was not really great for a trend trade day. Maybe you did some scalps, but what this choppy action did was the whole market was weak. What we look at various market indicators, like we look at yields. If yields are high, market will tank. US dollar strong, market will tank. We look at VIX, and today our strategy was all about VIX 14, which is same as tomorrow. We'll keep it eyes tomorrow as well. I teach about my SPY VIX strategy a lot, but I just wanted to point out the personality of the market today, and the same concepts work day in day out. Pre-market lows, pre-market highs, yesterday lows, yesterday highs. It's all the same, and those concepts help you trade these stocks. So yeah, so you can see my guidance all day. I'm guiding about SPY, QQQ. We are trading SPX in the SPX floor, but just wanted to cover this move. And when this happens, big push and fade, then of course the marketplace will fade. That's why you saw Microsoft fail, push fail. Netflix was weak all day under the pivots I gave, and Meta fail under the clouds, week all day under the pivots I gave. If you want to look at those pivots, you can see, my meta pivot was 371, 373, faded under all those pivots. Same thing for Netflix, the pivots were 488, 490, faded under those pivots. So all the pivots I gave, they work nicely, except maybe few. Let's look at Microsoft, because Microsoft tried to push over the pivot of 393.50 and it could not. So this was the pivot right here. It failed, right? So that was Microsoft. So anyways, just pointed out how the market moves. Was a choppy day, but we were still able to manage it, focusing on the relative strength or relative weakness plays. All right, guys, let's look at next play. This won't take long. As you guys all know, Boeing has been bearish due to so much news, and there was so much news and it was bearish. Look here carefully what happens when something breaks the daily 3450 EMA. Sorry, so that one was the 50 EMA on a weekly, right? So 50 EMA on a weekly, when it breaks 50 EMA on daily, it goes down, and then 50 EMA on weekly, even more bearish. But anyways, even if we didn't look at this bearish pivot break, guys, just the pre-market setup, breaking the 210 to 11 pivots I gave, you can fade more, bearish bias, and after that I was just giving targets 207, 207, 205, 202, 200, and I said by end of the day we will hit 200, right? And I think it fades more tomorrow if it can't hold 200. So Boeing was crazy win for us, like right from the pre-market guidance, just amazing guidance. And I loved Boeing. Daily bearish, 1 hour bearish, 10-minute bearish. So that's an A+ short. When everything is bearish, you can short it with confidence. Just find a good entry and short it. So Boeing, perfect example. Compare my comments. I gave every target and most targets met. So let's talk about coin. I was short on coin, even the other day, yesterday, still had some, and I was short this morning because versus 130, because 130 was the pivot, and they suddenly swiped out of nowhere. And I had to take the quick loss on that coin when it swiped, and our system turned bullish on 10-minute, right? So you can clearly see 10-minute failing yesterday, Friday, and then today the 10-minute broke out and it turns bullish. So when that turns bullish, this is your risk if you want to long. And I said that turned bullish over 130, and do not short over the clouds. That's what I say. It turned bullish. I said it at 950. Since I said that, it went as far as 135, $5 per shares, right? So that was a nice bullish alert. I personally was doing good in AMD and NVDA, so I took my loss and moved on. But this is an example of the guidance. I keep saying, change your bias. If bias is changing, change it. Frankly, I was not expecting this bounce, but that's fine. 1 hour is still bearish. If it turns bullish, we will trade long. We do not do a perma bias on anything. Daily is still bearish, but if it gets over 50 EMA, maybe we will scalp long there as well. So that was a coin, guys. Loss on the short side, but good idea, good alert on the bullish pivot. So let's talk about Tesla today. So Tesla was bearish. Tesla was bearish at open. So what was the plan? The reason, and we never chase the bearish. It's a C minus setup. Always C minus setup. Because if you chase, then you do not know where the dip is going. But what happened today? Right at the open, I warned everybody, do not long. Because if 212, 50, 60 level breaks, it's going to go to 210. But then what happened? They break the level, they reclaim the level. And now that's when you change and look at that. Because when they reclaim this level, this clearly is your support or your stop area to go long. Then you consider, because this is called a trap. Because many shorts, like, even I was short and I was like, it's reversing, and then that's a trap if you don't. But I know how this works. So you do not short, you wait. For long, it's your first signal, and then you try to starter, maybe a C minus starter. When pushes over 3450, it confirms your bullish pivot, right? That's what I said. That's what I said. It reclaimed C minus, right? It reclaimed 21250. That was my warning, because you want to see lower high, lower lows when you're short. And if you are long, you want to see this trap and this level build, and so anyways, then it turned bullish. I gave the first warning 1250, and I said you can long versus the clouds or pullbacks with the clouds. And since I said turn bullish, it went all the way from 217 to 23. Even my first warning would have been a good signal to take a starter in C minus, add more into the B plus when it becomes over 3450, and take that trade long, right? There's no shame, right? After that win came in when it was bouncing over 3450 clouds. He gave a nice long scalp from 219s all the way to 221s, right? So you see the all day guidance on Tesla today. But I want everybody to understand this trap setup. Right, we are very proud of the execution that we did not touch, because we follow our rules. We don't care if we miss the perfect entry. We care we get the high, more probable entry. That's entry with a high probability. Don't try to get a perfect entry. Try to get a high probability trade entry. That's what I teach everybody. All right, let's look at PayPal. So PayPal was on our, let's see, PayPal was on our watch list as well today. So the reason that I had PayPal on the watch list, because, it had a downgrade and I was looking to short it on any bounce, and it broke right away. And that's why I said you can short it, right? Right at the open, I said you can short it. But it kind of faked me out, although although I didn't obey those rules correctly, because ideally I was covering because I wanted to short higher, but it never got over 512s, and the resistance was up here 59.82s. I mean, I got a good fade right here since short it went to 58.53, but when I covered, I was still green, but I covered. I didn't want to give up what I have and you just leave the trade. But then it faded again all the way. I was still guiding if somebody was in. I was still guiding on PayPal that how it's, the setup work. Yeah, am I proud of my execution? Yeah, probably not. But again, I obeyed my rules of higher lows, higher highs. And of course, there was, if my entry was even better, like somewhere here, then I would have maybe held it. But my entry was not that good. I was in 59.50s. And then it was coming closer there, and I didn't like this small ATR play, so got out. But it moves decent. Even after that 512 reject, it moved up to 58, almost $1.40, and good for the options. Daily chart bearish. So short idea worked, and I know some guys really executed it well, but I'm fine with what I got. But just for you guys understand the setup and how it worked. Let the 512 fade all day. All right, let's look at Morgan Stanley. Was our earning play today. The plan in the pre-market, I said bearish bias to short the pops, key level 86.63 and 86, right? And it popped and short, and 86.63 breaks, and it breaks, and then it fades all day. So you see the level on Morgan Stanley, the idea worked. I personally had such a good trade with AMD NVDA. I didn't focus on MS personally, but as you see, the idea was spot on there on MS. And these banks have been getting hammered after earnings, so but we'll keep eyes on them tomorrow as well. Let's look at Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs, the level was 374. It never broke, so it never confirmed the bearish bias. I did say watch for a B minus bounce, and it did bounce from 374 to all the way to 384, right? B minus turned B plus, and the target was probably pre-market highs, went a little close, And you can see the difference between Goldman Sachs and MS, and my comments that how I mentioned that what's the difference on both, right? So never triggered Goldman Sachs, never triggered that 374 level and bounced for a B minus and push. Let's quickly look at JP Morgan day 2 setup. I was actually short JP Morgan, for a day 2, but it actually gave a big gap down already. So it gave a lot of meat already. So JPM, so I was short, but when it started to get over 512, I got quickly out because it turned bullish at 512 and hit 34.50, rejected, and then stayed bullish. There's no use wasting your time on higher lows, higher highs. It's not going to work. And let's see what worked. So what worked was Delta Airlines. It was day 2, right? So day 2 was Delta Airlines. Day 2 setups, as I teach in my webinars, I teach in my repeatable setups. This is a day 2 setup. Breaks on a pre-market lows, fades. I said right at open, heavy means it's a short. So my community already know my rules, already know how we trade, and still heavy. I even said at around 11:59, I said that still hold it, it's still heavy, and then even after that it faded all the way to 36.33, and you cover when it gets back over here 36.80. That's when you cover, and that's when I said good to cover. So Delta Airline, another good repeatable setup, guys. So you clearly see how our setups are working. It's not random, it's repeatable setup. If our losers are less, they're less, but we're keeping them small because we stay with the trend. If you keep sizing against the trend is when you destroy your accounts. So when your trade is working, scale into the winners, and I will probably do a webinar on scale out as well. But anyways, guys, that was it for today. Thank you for watching this late. And if you want to join my community, trade with us, link should be there with some promo codes. You can come join us. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.